Hi, welcome back to this one. So, in the previous video, we were looking at how to register for a Snowflake account, but in this one, we will just be looking at the working area of Snowflake and what everything indicates. We wouldn't really be going too deep because this is more of an SQL course. However, we might have another video if you would like to go deep into Snowflake. But in the meantime, so you have the working area. You have, just follow with my mouse. Essentially, you can see this is, maybe this, on the top right, you have the opportunity to switch a row from, account admin to all sorts of roles. We wouldn't go in deep into that. But the main areas where we'll be using in this course is essentially the worksheet. So we'll be using more of the worksheet in this course because that's where we'll be writing our SQL queries. And of course, here we have the opportunity to also create like dashboards, but we wouldn't really go into that in this course. And then we have some other very interesting things to do. In the meantime, we go to the worksheets and we can click the plus on the top right corner of your screen. You would have the opportunity to add a new worksheet, or it could be a Python worksheet, or it could be a folder, right? So if we are clicking this SQL worksheet, then it creates another worksheet. So you have like some initial worksheets that are sort of here, just just as a sample, right? You also have the folder where you can essentially also store some worksheets. It's just a more efficient way of storing your work, right? So what we will do in this section is we'll create a folder where we sort of store our beginners or maybe like our SQL course worksheets, right? So that we will sort of have each class will have its own worksheet, right? So we create a folder, and then in the folder we can then go ahead and just click to create a new SQL worksheet. So mainly we will be doing SQL, so we wouldn't create the Python worksheet in this course. Now, one thing you might notice right away is that you might notice on the side you have something like a databases. The databases are essentially where the data is stored, but we would go a little bit into that. You also have your worksheet, so you can easily like browse, the previous folders and the worksheets that are in them. So you can easily switch to them, right? One thing that we would essentially need for this course is the warehouse. The warehouse is like the compute power that Snowflake uses to essentially, I'd say it uses it to run your queries. So it's like, let's say it's like a machine or a system that helps to run your queries. So when you write your queries, Snowflake runs them using the warehouse. In this course, we wouldn't create any warehouse. So we use the default warehouse, which is the compute underscore WH here. And so you can just click it. Every time you log in, you might have to click it. And then you can also share this sheet. But usually what happens is that you can only share the sheet in your organization. So I don't really see us really using this in this course. But then we have our databases, which are essentially these two databases are databases that come from the onset. So when you have a Snowflake account, these are like default databases. And the first database is the Snowflake database, which is essentially a database that sort of like keeps the metadata of your activity. So in a way, we wouldn't really go into this part of the course. Perhaps we go in the later part of the course, we might come back to the metadata store. And then we have the Snowflake sample data. So the sample data essentially has like a few sample data that Snowflake has, curated for us here. So here we have like, this, you have a lot of folders here, right? And then this will essentially take us into what we will call the Snowflake data storage structure. So you have your database. This is your database. And when you go one step further, you have your schema. So you have the information schema, you have this other 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 schema. And then In the individual schemas, then you have your tables, right? You might have the call center, the catalog page, and all that, right? So essentially, this is just like a file storage method, right? This is how we store like a file. So let's assume like this database belongs to a company. Then you have a maybe department that is essentially each department might have like the data stored in different schemas, right? And then in that schema, each department you have like, the actual data set, which is like, your Excel, but it's actually a table in Snowflake. So we essentially have the, database schema hierarchy, it's database schema tables hierarchy. And also you might be able to see that in, when you come here as well, you see like at the moment it's saying no database is selected. But what we can essentially do is we can come here and say, okay, I want to select, um, you know, this database, which is essentially this database, the sample database. And then I want to select one of the schemas that I would like to use. And then like this, now you sort of are in this folder. However, you don't necessarily have to always do this. There are other ways that we will do around this, but this is just essentially the work environment of Snowflake. In the next course, we will write our first query. So let's look onto that. Thank you.